Hello and welcome to the episode number 7 of the Getting Started with Booster series. If you don't know what Booster is, I recommend you to go to the first episode and start from there. So, previous episode we've been creating some commands for our bank account application. This one we'll be talking about events, which is the central part pretty much of our application, and it's the main source of truth. When we say source of truth, we say it's like the central part of the data, and where does the data and where does all the information that your application handles come from? In the case of Booster applications, the main source of truth are the events, which is a list of like an infinite list of objects. You can take a look at it like an infinite array of objects. But we have to define the format of those events. So in this episode, we're going to be taking a look on how to do that. So we come back to our design document for this application. We saw that we had created three kinds of events. We had a bank account is created event, which states, well, a bank account was created. We have a bank account changed, and we have a user notified. See how these are in the past tense, and they state facts that have happened in our system. And this is done because when recreating the state of your application, what you do is instead of mutating like some kind of place, some kind of variable or some kind of database in the case of a cloud application, instead of doing that, you just have like this infinite array of events, and then you reconstruct your application state from there. So as a side note, as a past tense, but events that are in the form like, I don't know, bank account creation requested or money deposit requested, those are not events. Those should be commands, because a request is like an order, is an imperative thing, and that should be a command. So if you see yourself writing events in the sense of something requested, that should be rephrased into a command. Okay, we can go ahead and take a look at those events. So first of all, we're gonna open up our terminal, and we're gonna use the boost command line tool to create those events. Right, boost new : event, and we're gonna write the name of our event. So it's gonna be count created. In the same way that we created commands, we have to specify the fields of these events. So we write -- fields, and we specify them in the same way. And to do that, we write the name of the field. So an account at least is gonna have an owner, be a Uuid, and it's gonna also have an account number. Also have a Uuid. So we see that now our events folder has been populated. I'm gonna close this for a second. And we can see what has happened here. So we see a bunch of imports, like import of the event decorator, import of the Uuid type, which is a unique identifier. We talked about that in the previous episode. And here we see, the first thing we see after the imports is the use of the event decorator. So this event decorator is a function that's taking all this class as a parameter, and it's marking it essentially to Booster as an event. So Booster knows what to do with this kind of class. Then we see the constructor, where the fields are predefined as read-only by default, because generally you won't be modifying these events in your code, because they're going to be just handled and passed around by Booster himself. And here we have an owner field, which is a UID, and an account number field, which is a UID, which is exactly what we specified over here in the console. And after that, we have this weird entity ID method. What is this entity ID method for? Well, when you have events, you generally have them associated to an entity. if you remember what is an entity is this part of the diagram in Booster, and it's the state of a part of your application at some point in time. Why it is at some point in time? Because the entity state is going to be generated out of the list of events. So for example, if you want to know the state of your account on, I don't know, July 17th, you will probably take a look at all the events of July 17th and before, and then you will reduce that or combine those events into the entity at that point in time. But you can travel back and forth. So this entity ID method over here is telling Booster which entity instance is this event associated to. What does that mean? Essentially, when you create an account, the account has a number. So Booster has to know which account is this one. For example, if we had another event, for example, which we're going to be creating right now in a second, called account changed, Booster has to know which account has been changed. And for that, we have to return the value of that identifier in this method over here. So if we have, for example, an account created account number 2, Booster will know that the account number 2 has been created, not the number 3 and number 4. And in order to tell Booster that, we have to return it over here. We're going to return this dot account number. Now I'm going to format this. It gets a little more prettier. And we go ahead and create another event, sorry. So here in the README, we have an bank account change event. So we can go ahead to the terminal, and we can write boost new event, account changed. And it's gonna have some fields. It's gonna have an account number, it's gonna be a Uuid, and we're gonna have an amount. It's gonna be like the change amount in the account changed event. So we can go ahead and write the amount of type number. So we submit that command, and we already get a new event in our events folder. And open up that, and we see again the same thing as in the previous event. So we have an account number field, amount number, everything is correct, and we have to specify which entity ID is this associated to. Return this dot account number, and we're going to save this. The third event was user notified. So we're going to go ahead and also create that event, and we're going to call user notified with some fields. And I'm just going to specify the account number as well, so we know which account is this user notification related to, and specify who is the user that's being notified. So we can go ahead and write it also here. We're going to submit that. Same thing over here. We come here, check that everything is in place, and we return the entity ID associated. So we're going to just return this dot account number. So cool, we have our 3 events in place, but in the previous episode we have created some commands, and we didn't specify like what are the events that are being registered. So we have the create account command over here, the deposit command over here, and the withdraw command over here, and they're both not registering any events. So let's start with the create account. So create account should be registering the account created event, and to do that, well, come here and you write register events new account created. So now we have to pass the owner of the account. We write this dot owner, and we have to specify the account number. We don't have it at hand because we just created the account. So we can just go over here and say, okay, let's create an account number over here. So account number. And Booster provides you with this UUID type, which is used for unique identifiers. And we're gonna go ahead and use it. We're gonna write UUID.generate. This is gonna generate us a new UUID. Of course, in a real situation, you would probably have some format, but for the example, this will suffice. So now we can go ahead and pass the account number variable to here. And that's it. That's how you register an event. To just fill in the register.events part. That's it. And we go to deposit, which is another command that should register an event. First of all, we can check if the account number exists. In order to do that, we can use a special method provided by Booster called fetch entity snapshot. So we can go ahead and write account. We have Booster dot. Let me import that real quick. Here we have fetch entity snapshot. And here we have to specify the entity name and the entity ID. Right now, I'm gonna leave the name as this, and the entity ID is gonna be the same as this command account number. Right now we don't have any entity created, so I'm just gonna leave this commented out. And for the case of the events, we're just gonna register a new event called account changed. And here we have to specify the account number. So go ahead and do that. And the amount of the change. So a deposit, incrementing the account, so we can just gonna leave it as it is. And in the case of the withdraw, we can come here as well. I'm gonna return register an account changed. Go ahead and also pass the account number. And in the case of the amount, I'm gonna dot amount over here, but I'm gonna make it negative. So it's a withdrawal. So that's pretty much it. That's how you create events and how you register them. Take a look at what we've done in this episode. We took a look at the events of our application. We've created them with the Boost CLI tool with Boost new : event, name of the event, -- fields of the event in the form of name of the event : type. And we have generated these 3 events. And after that, we went ahead and we registered them in our command handlers. And thanks for watching. Stay tuned